Welcome back to the FarmCast presented by 21st Century Equipment. I'm Isabel Drobny here with Scott Osborne. So Scott, you kind of live on like both sides, I guess. You have a little bit of land in Colorado and a little bit in Nebraska. What is unique, I guess, to your region?
We farm, about 35 to 5,000 acres, and a lot of it's dry land, a lot of it's irrigated. The farther we go south, we have sandy soil. The farther north we go, it becomes very slaty. It becomes really hard packed. And then if you go even farther east, it just becomes more nutrient dense or even sandy in some areas. And if you go west, it becomes more rocky and stuff like we have out here. So it's
like a little bit of everything.
Yeah, the soil type changes rapidly. It's so fast, and this type of stuff you can grow doesn't really change that much, but the ability to reach high yields changes very quickly. Like if you get a very sandy area, it's hard to water enough to get the corn and soybeans to yield high enough. That's what it comes down to. It's a really difficult thing to judge, and the different types of fertilizer you have to use in sandy soil versus hard pack stuff. Because if you're in the hard pack stuff, you kind of want to use NH3. You want to use different strategies to keep the nitrogen in the ground versus the sandy stuff, which is a lot more volatile. A lot more things leave very quickly. It evaporates on the top, and gases can escape, right? And moisture just escapes quickly, right? So you have a lot of things that just happen very differently between the two.
Well, would you say that stays true to, I guess, like the more southern part of Wyoming, a similar soil texture in Cheyenne, Laramie area, Torrington?
I don't have a whole lot of soil exposure from up there, but I do know that it does change pretty quickly, but not as quickly as it is here. If you go up there and see a lot of rock formations that they have, you can see that the soil's obviously been eroded away there, so it's pretty sedimentary, and it's they're running pivots like we do here. It's different for sure. I don't know if they're doing farming practices much differently than they are in the hard pack stuff,
which I guess like in the more eastern areas and Colorado, Nebraska, it's a lot larger scale as well.
Absolutely.
So I guess like in your region, what would be the typical or average acreage that you're seeing out there? Like
for farm size?
Yeah.
So I would say like a good sized farmer is at about 3,000 to 5,000 area. Like that's going to be your majority of your guys. If they're full-time farmers, are going to fall in that range, I would say. If you're smaller than that, you're probably doing something else on the side, I would say. But if you're more than that, you're hiring multiple people out to do it. So it's kind of what it comes out to, is you become a team at more than 5,000, it seems.
Whereas in the front range of Colorado, it's kind of more smaller.
Your guys' field sizes are a lot smaller out here. You guys have less land to use.
Well, and the I guess like conditions are more, it's not as flat.
Right.
Obviously.
There's probably more soil work being done out here than there is out there. And that comes with the territory of terracing and mountains and just trying to farm the land that you do have, because maximizing every acre is very vital for everybody, regardless whether you're out there or up here. You want to get every acre you can, because that's your payday at the end. So with the way pivots work out here, you guys have a lot of ones that turn at the ends and do types of things like that, where out there we don't. It's just a full circle and run corners.
Which in your family farm, what is your guys' focus? Like crop types? Yeah.
We're corn, soybeans, and occasionally wheat or peas. So if we're running dryland programs of a tri-rotation, so that you have a legume to give the nitrogen back to the soil, you have corn to use that nitrogen, and you have your wheat to save your moisture. So you try to do all three of something to make so that the way you come back is strong for the next crop type, and you can continue feeding your operation that way. And it saves the soil, because if you plant corn after year after year after year, which is what a lot of people do, and you have to supplement a lot of nitrogen, it becomes costly.
Is there anything that is like unique to your own operation?
Oh, I would say peas is pretty unique to our operation. There's not a lot of people that run peas. It's becoming more and more. Field peas, you have to go a long ways to sell them. You have to take them to Kansas City, I believe. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you have to truck them a long ways. So it's definitely unique. As the marketplace has changed, I think a lot of people are trying chickpeas and things like that. Yeah. Rye, wheat, those kind of stuff. Just different. There's no spring wheat or anything like that.
Well, and typically in our region, it's fairly dry, which this summer we're seeing it to be very different. How has that affected the farming in, I guess, your area? Because it's been, very wet. I've seen fields underwater just driving through eastern Colorado. Has that had a pretty big toll?
Oh, it's been pretty massive, because majority, majority might be a strong word, but there's a lot of guys that just push nitrogen through the pivot. And so there's just liquid nitrogen running through the pivot. And if you have a lot of rain, you are pumping your wells when you don't need to. And those wells hurt your average over a couple of years. So you have multiple years of water that you could be saving. So I think you're going to see a movement out there of a lot more side dressing, especially in wet years like this. I don't know if this is the future. I hope this is the future to come. I hope that's what it looks like, because the dryland corn and stuff out there is the best I've ever seen it, and I've lived out there for 25 years, so it's pretty substantial. It's gorgeous out there right now. The wheat was close to 100 bushel on dryland, which is one other time probably in my life I've seen it. So it's impressive.
And how long ago was the other time?
15 years.
Oh, wow.
Years before the corn price really went high. So probably 06, 07, somewhere in there. That's probably where I put it.
Have we been doing better compared to some of our neighboring states because we've been getting so much moisture? I mean, I know parts of Nebraska have been fairly dry, drier than normal.
So I think that when you look at those people and hear their complaints, and because I recently drove through Nebraska and in Iowa, they're telling me they're in a drought, but if they're calling that a drought, what we've been in, we're a desert. That's the kind of comparison they're making is like, hey, we need rain really bad. Well, they're going to still grow 220 bushel dryland corn, which might be bad for them. It's amazing out here for us. So yeah, it's something that you just have to kind of wrap your head around. For
the rest of Colorado, have you heard or dealt with customers that have had recent changes?
You see a lot more guys getting hurt by hail this year, but that's what comes with rain. Those things are going to happen. Yeah. There's going to be a lot more organic stuff happening. There's going to be a lot more carbon credit stuff happening, and then you're going to see a lot more changes in programs and stuff like that. And when you get rain, those things are a lot easier to overcome. So you're going to see a lot of those things happen here pretty quickly and being able to get paid.
With the hail, I mean, there's really no way you can, I guess, foresee that loss. How badly did it?
No, you can definitely foresee the loss. When you drive past it, some are mowed all the way completely.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you had corn that was going to make 220, make 0. It happened that quick and that overnight. Some areas got nailed really, really hard. Yeah. Sometimes it's only 5 to 10% when your adjustment comes back. But I mean, that's the thing though, is you're going to take the bad with the good, because rain is good, but hail's bad, but you'd rather have hail than drought. So that's just, in my opinion. That's true.
I saw some some Starfires come in that were completely broken, and base stations that got hit pretty hard. Yeah. I mean, how do we get them back up and running quickly after some storm that's that big? Where do we come in and support?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest challenges with COVID, is that just equipment and materials and those type of things were really hard to come by. Yeah. And it also happened at such a bad time because the technological shift happened very soon, and at that exact moment they ran out of ways to make those new technologies. So you had people stuck in the old way and the new way, and then supply chain issues on top of that. So it kind of compounded. As we move forward, we have got a lot more stock for things like that, and much more improved receiver stock and display stock. So if something breaks, or if you get struck by lightning or something like that, we have the means and ability to fix that. Hopefully it's under warranty. That's how it goes.
We can only pray.
Yeah, only pray.
I know there's some areas that don't necessarily have the best cell signal. What are some things that we do to kind of improve those areas, that people that want to adopt precision ag but aren't necessarily in areas that they even have good cell signal to communicate? Because I mean, most of the stuff runs on satellite.
So we offer 2 RTK solutions at the moment, but the one we push really hard is obviously the deer solution. I think the Starfire RTK that's coming with the 7000s is absolutely massive for those customers that are in bad cell service and bad reception areas for base stations. Those that's a game changer for them. That's sub-inch accuracy, repeatable year after year. So that's a big change. As we move forward, I think you're going to see a lot of people move that direction. As far as RTK base stations, if you live in such a desolate place that you have to put your own base, that is possible, and you can't do those things. For price though.
And obviously. Is that pretty common in your region as well?
Yeah, I would say 95% of people are on RTK, at least SF3 to a minimum. It's just that accuracy is important, and when you're like that, you want to be that as accurate as you can.
Is there anything else that you would highlight about how the farming practices are just different compared to, I mean, even other parts of the country?
I think I'm not going to say they're a whole lot different, besides we have to truck things really far, generally, especially if you have something that's worth a lot, you have to truck it very far. So that's a challenge we overcome. You guys up here obviously are closer to a lot of things that we are not, and that's an advantage, and that's a difference across the AOR that's pretty narrow, right? So you can see changes like that pretty quickly. And you know, we have ethanol plants and those things around, so there's a few options, obviously. But this year's been crazy wet in comparison to everything else. What have you seen normally? What is the usual weather like out in the area?
It's normally very dry, where we'll see sometimes even fields burning up because of the heat and just how dry it is. And we're also spending a lot more on pumping costs because we have to irrigate a lot more frequent than we are. I mean, now we're kind of just using the rainfall that we're seeing. This year has been great for that aspect, but normally it's high pumping costs, very dry conditions, very hot. I mean, sometimes last summer we saw a lot of days in the hundreds.
Yeah, we had a high of 92 until July, which is crazy.
Yeah, I remember last year it was, I mean, hot to even go outside for super long.
Yeah, we had a couple 100-degree days in like May, I think. So definitely different.
But yeah, I mean, this summer it feels definitely more like a Midwest summer with semi-humid conditions and very dry, very green, very beautiful. But
the
it's
one summer I
normally
spent in Lincoln, Nebraska, that was the most humid it's ever been. It feels exactly like that again.
it's normally a 180 from what we're seeing today.
Yep.
Thank you for tuning into the FarmCast presented by 21st Century Equipment. Let us know what's unique about farming in your region in the comments below.